I won't put that on it.
Now it's Richard Ingrams to have a go.
If you were Northumbrian, you would describe Patrick Campbell's expression as someone who is yorgering, for it means to gape.
He does a lot of it.
To lower the jaw, to gape in astonishment. And this came also to be the nickname given to a particular type of oyster, which is found in Northumberland, which opens up. Exactly like that. I couldn't describe it better. What the oyster does.
Yeah. Poor pound of
sand. If it opens up, don't eat it. That's what I say, not if it's an oyster. Anyway, it's a sort of victualling ship. It's a ship where you get your provisions from. It's a skin disease, though not of sheep. And it is to gape or, let your jaw drop. Barbara, pick one, if you will.
You're out your own here, darling.
Well, to gape in astonishment, thence like an oyster. Sounds a bit like yawn to be true. So I don't know about that one. Boat for trading, vitamin deficiency. Home! I'm going to go for the boat.
The boat, the ship where you get your provisions and all. Claire Faulconbridge said as much. True or bluff? You're right!
Oh,
Thank goodness you've broken your duck. And now, I have to repeat simply that yorga does actually mean that, a ship where you get the victuals from. 4-1. The next one is Odile, I suppose. Barbara?
Well, there's a place in the tiny island of Hydra. Well, I think it's still there, actually. 1903 was the last time I heard about it being there. And it's a bee building rather than a beehive. That's to say that people can actually go into the building. And they there collect honey. And they mix this honey with old Greek wines. That's what Odile is.
Right. And now Patrick tells you.
Odile is a phenomenon. It was first discovered by the famous physicist, der Herr Baron von Reichenbach. Der Herr Baron von Reichenbach found that Odile is a natural force, a thing that flows through the whole of life, making possible things like magnetism and hypnotism, and even Uri jelly. Not Uri jelly, bending forks. Pro Odile.
Isn't Reichenbach where Sherlock Holmes fell off?
Yes.
Just a thought I'd ask.
Reichenbach this time.
And now Christopher Timothy.
Odile was an 18th century medicated soap for skin complaints. And it was obtainable at any good quality 18th century pharmacist. And one of the most famous brand names of the period was Dr. Steerforth's Odile, which contained, amongst its ingredients, opium, camphor, rectified spirits, and a solution of ammonia. It was a medicated soap.
So, right, so it's not exactly a beehive, it's a bee house, a building for bees. It's a natural force of nature, and it's a medicated soap. Claire?
Yes. Yes.
I'm not sure about the beehives. I think I'll miss the beehives. And the natural force, I'm going to go for the soap.
You just didn't like the other two, did you?
No,
Claire?
I didn't.
Somehow tell. But you like the idea of the soap.
Yes,
well, that was
soap.
Christopher Timothy who said it. True or bluff? Oh, no!
Oh, that's better. Women is fun too.
They're coming up on the rails swiftly. Let's have the true definition, shall we?
Yeah,
Yes,
sure,
we
will.
must have that.
Yeah.
There it is.
Everyone knows about that. Yeah. Next, please.
It's a natural force of nature, is the Odil. Perpine is the next one. Let us hurry on. Frank.
You only want one.
Perpine is a verb, and it means to deliberate
And just like that.
At
But
great
next,
length.
please, for heaven's sake.
for making up one's mind. Or, to put it briefly, lengthily to ponder.
Pardon?
Oh, where am I? Richard Ingrams, your turn.
Pepin is a small coin, an old coin in France from the time of King Louis XII in the 16th century. And I think it was so called because it had on one side the image of a rampant porcupine. If such a thing can be imagined in these times.
So, Claire Faulconbridge?
A perpine is a feature of a timber-framed cottage, like Anne Hathaway's cottage. And it lay between two vertical pieces of timber, and it wasn't just decorative, it used to take the weight of the underlying brickwork.
Well, that's as neat as you please. It's a sort of timber support. It's a gold coin of the reign of Louis XII. That's a very early sort of Louis. And it is to ponder at inordinate, indeed tedious length. Patrick?
Well, certainly porcupines have never been caught being rampant, even on the back of old coins. So that's just silly.
Not to
Might be
another
right, but
porcupine.
do you mind a moment, please? Your turn
Not
will come.
to another porcupine.
That boredom of... If I talked like that...
You'll never catch up.
Who's doing this, you or me? Well, it's certainly... It's to mess around with words. Take your time. It's been laborious.
The pondering act
pondering.
of Frank. True or bluff?
It's a bluff. We all know it's a bluff. Yes.
He did all that and it wasn't true after all. Well,
It's to put us through
who
that
gave the
torment.
true definition of that word?
Oh,
Perpine.
not tricky.
Yes,
dicky.
indeed.
Rampantly held up.
I've let you down,
It is indeed a gold
only a
coin,
game.
and for aught I know, has the porcupine on the back or on the front of it. Nuck is the next one, and it's Patrick to define it.
please. In the days before motorways, a town macadam steamroller, they had lanes and little byways, things like that, and they were full of knocks. Because a knock is when a paving stone sticks up. Not up, but up. If you're a horse, you could stub your shoe. If you're a human being, you could stub your shoe on the knock. But it would still be a knock, wouldn't it? The thing
What
is,
about-
pardon
No,
me.
please.
I
a
really
little
finished.
more.
I think I really finished, I think.
Don't rub the bloom off it, Patrick, I would say. Christopher.
A nuck is a small snack, like a piece of cheese or a piece of pork pie, which farmers carry in their pockets while working, so they can munch whene'er they choose without interrupting their toil.
Nuck.
Nuck.
All right. So now Barbara Kellerman.
Well, chuckles at the other end of the studio. A nuck is a non-moving part of a clock. So if the big hand moves, or if the pendulum swings, or if the seconds go, or whatever happens inside the clock moves, it is not a knuck.
What is?
She told you, it's the bit that doesn't move.
It's the bit that doesn't move.
So it's a part of a clock that doesn't move, whatever that is. Kind of a snack farmers are often found with on their persons. And it's an irregularity in a paving stone, sort of sticking up. Frank?
I don't think that parts of a clock which don't move would have a name. I think the parts which move would have a name, but parts which don't move would be so deplorably dull. There'd be no point in referring to them as a knucks, would there? It can't be a snack, so we come to paving stones sticking up before the invention of paving stones. You said before Tarmac Adam, and paving stones stuck up, which doesn't make sense, does it? They wouldn't be there in country byroads.
Well, perhaps he meant stone in general, pavement.
He might have meant all a number of
but
things, Mr. Robinson. But
I'm sorry, I only tried to be helpful.
Imperfections in the highway.
So I go for the farmer's snack.
The farmer's snack, Christopher Timothy, true or bluff? No, no!
So there. Well played, lad.
Who gave the true one? Quick! The true one I must have. Yes, there you see it.
Well done, madame. Lovely.
So it's part of the clock that doesn't move. So look, we're going to try and squeeze another one in. Ike! Oh. Ike is the next one, or eek, or whatever. Richard, rather quickly.
Ike is rather disgusting stuff that oozes out of sheep's skin during the hot weather.
That'll do nice. Well, when I say that'll do nicely, Claire Faulconbridge.
Ike is an Icelandic cheese which is brown in colour and looks rather like chocolate blancmange.
That'll do. If you like that sort of thing, Frank.
It's a hollow wooden squat cylinder which goes under a beehive.
Right, so it's sort of goo that comes out of a sheep. It's Icelandic cheese, and it's an extension or something that goes under a beehive. Instantly, then, Christopher, you must make your choice. It's like backing a plane
Isn't it me? No, him.
Yes, Christopher.
Oh, beg your
yes,
pardon.
it is.
You're playing for time, is
Natural eagerness, Patrick.
You can't help it.
Hurry, hurry.
Chocolate cheese.
Chocolate cheese, Claire. You more or less said something like that. It was Icelandic cheese, but it's still a bluff. And the true one. Rather swiftly, we have the true one, and there it is. It is sheep's goo. I declare the winners, there's no doubt about it. 6-3, Frank Muir and co have won.
Thank you very much.
We shall have more words from the waxworks next week. Until then, goodbye from Richard Ingrams, Christopher Timothy, Claire Faulconbridge, Barbara Kellerman, Frank Muir,
Good night.
Patrick Campbell, and goodbye. Hello again, this is Call My Bluff, featuring the tall version of Robertson Hare, Patrick Campbell.
Good evening. The lovely, shy, elfin girl with the long hair I had last week has come back as a kind of mysterious Egyptian beauty, but she's still Barbara Kellerman. And the other one, the well-known cow helper and herder, a veterinary surgeon, with double-barreled Christian name, Christopher Timothy. I got it right again.
And the man with the steam-driven bow tie, Frank Muir.
And I bring back from the world of footlights and television cameras, Claire Faulconbridge. And for the world of journalism and private eye, Richard Ingrams. That's not journalism,
keeping magnetism.
We'll have a word, if that's all right with you. There we go. Ring-a-ding, and we get Cankydort. And so, Patrick Campbell and his team will define Cankydort, if they pronounce it that way, 3 different ways. 2 of the definitions are false, 1 is true. That's the one that Frank and co. try and pick out. What of this word, Patrick?
A Cankydort was a Belgian field hospital. A kind of tent in which you could get your leg hacked off, and that kind of thing. A small point of interest about Cankydots was it not General Grey, who was one of Marlborough's generals? He got dragged into a Cankydot with a fearful bullet wound in his leg, and they tried to remove his leg, and he died in the very same Cankydot that he was brought into. During the Battle of Oudenarde? Oudenarde, the very place, yes.
Oudegaard Neff.
No, Oudenarde. General Grey had his leg lopped off and died in a
Braces
Cankydot.
me up, Frank. Good on you.
couldn't move.
Christopher Timothy's turn.
If way back in the 14th century you were, you would in fact now be dead, but if you were back in the 14th century and you were in a bit of a fix, in a dodgy situation, if you were up Yoldy Creaky without Yoldy Paddle, you would have been in a Candiport. No. Cankydort.
Yes. You very nearly would have been in a Canby pot. Yes.
Indeed you would.
But not quite.
Cankydort. That's it. Cankerdort.
Is
and
it,
it's a very
Vet?
old... Sorry?
Oh, what is it, Vet?
You're getting to it. You're getting to it.
It's
hasn't
being
got
in a
that far.
dodgy situation, and it's a very, very old word, only used once and once only, and that was in the writings of Chaucer. Cankydort.
Right. So now, Barbara Kellerman.
Well, it's a coal which is mined near Bloemfontein. If that's not how you pronounce it, I'm very sorry. In South Africa. And it lets off a kind of green mineral substance, which is due to a chemical called columbite.
That's just the way you said due to, that's all.
I don't know what it is.
I'm so surprised by it.
Well, it's the chemical columbite that causes this, as I said. I mean,
It's a stuff.
the stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's that sort of coal, and it comes from South Africa somewhere.
Coal, is it? What is it?
Coal, I think. I think I got you right there, Barbara. Coal, yes, it's certain sort. Bloemfontein, I think, was the place. It's a first aid post, not very good one, apparently, and it's an awkward situation in the 15th century, or was it? Yes, 15th century. 14th. Frank. 14th, beg your pardon, 14th century, Frank.
Oh, I do think these are rotten bluffs and truths. Awful.
No losing of temper, please.
I really would rather play something else. Belgian, it's all this Cankerdort. It's a tremendous effort to make it sound Belgian, which it might well be. But, or South African, but a word in jeopardy was sort of mentioned once in Chaucer. Yes, I'll go for that. The word meaning in jeopardy, mentioned once in Chaucer.
Then,
or to put it another way, it's in Chaucer only once.
And mentioned only once or twice by Christopher Timothy. True or bluff?
I have no confidence in this.
Let's see. He's right! There is no doubt about it. Cankerdort means meant an awkward situation, but that was in the 14th century. We'll have another word, and that word is huffer, and Frank Muir will define it.
I have to take you back a year or two now, early 1500s, before Marlowe or Shakespeare, when the actors in a very, very crude melodrama of the period all looked a bit one like the other because the girls were played by boys' parts and they looked like boys. So they had a marvellous idea that when the villain came in, who was a braggart or a bully, he used to walk on stage or into the ring or the arena or the inn and say, "Huffer!" And all the groundlings that way knew that he was the huffer.
Good Lord. Next, please.
At your pill?
It was good as long as it went on. Richard, your turn.
A huffer was a sort of French equivalent of Frank Muir's bow tie at the time of the French Revolution. It was a sort of cravat of a rather florid type, which was worn by dandies and people of that type.
Ufa, you couldn't pronounce it in French. Next bit, for heaven's sake.
Ufa.
Ufa.
So, and now Claire.
A huffer is the key card at an old game called Basset, B-A-S-S-E-T, which is rather like whist. And the huffer card varied from hand to hand according to the dealer's choice, and it was the trump card, and it trumped any trick regardless of face value.
Right.
Steadily.
So it's an early version of Frank Muir's bow tie, a sort of cravat. It's an exclamation that Elizabethan or earlier actors made when they came on the stage, and it was a sort of trump card, but of a special sort. Patrick.
This is a hopeless mess, isn't it, to begin with, even before I begin not guessing but defining by deep analysis. I got some trouble here at the mill, I must confess. It can't be whatever it was that Richard Ingrams said was not true. Of that I'm certain. And silly Claire with huffer, a kind of whist. But if all the boy and girl actors look exactly alike, you don't have to say huffer to prove you're a bully boy. So they're all wrong, so it must be... It's the bully boy.
You're going to have
say
that.
it, Frank, yes.
You'll have it. It was Frank, true or
Fairly
not, Frank?
quickly.
I did say it was.
It was right. It's true, apparently. They came on, they said huffer or huffer, and you knew that they were the heavy, I suppose. Now, jugle or juggle or what is the next word, and Christopher Timothy defines it for you.
Jugle. If you've ever heard a nightingale in full, just going to say full flight, they fly quite quietly, singing in full flight, or even standing still, you will have noticed a sound which goes like jug, jug, jug. Hence the verb to jugle, which is a nightingale making the sound jug, jug.
Not bad,
Well,
not
Jude.
bad, not bad. So, Barbara, your turn.
Jugle means a word to agitate, like you would a bell or like you would a cocktail, and like you would a dice. And in fact, it is still used in Cheshire, meaning dice.
Not
That's
cheese.
what it means there in Cheshire.
Not shaking
dice.
cheese.
The actual dice.
The actual things themselves. Right, Patrick's turn.
A juggle, as was called by printers when print was set by hand. A juggle is the mark that the proofreader, you know what a proofreader is? You want a further explanation?
No.
He reads proofs. You see. If the proofreader finds an error in the handset, it's a type, he makes a little mark on the side, which is a juggle. Calling attention to the fact there's been an error in spelling or spacing, or even or not in thought, that's hopeless. But even just an error, a typographical error, really, it's a juggle. A proofreader, the handset type.
Can you justify that?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, what they all say is that it's a dice in Cheshire only. It's the noise made by a nightingale, and it's a reader's mark made on a proof. So, Richard Ingrams.
Well, I won't say that I'm totally baffled. I think I know the answer.
Well, let's
I know that birds in old poems go, and madrigals and things do go jug jug for some reason. So I'm quite tempted towards that definition, which might have some foundation, in fact. Shaken and not stirred. I was people shaking cocktails. And proofreaders do, I know, have all kinds of strange expressions which they use, marks they make. I know it's wrong, but I'll go for the proofreader.
You think the mark made by that Patrick said they made? True or bluff, Patrick? Do proofreaders do it?
No, no.
Nothing to do with that. Who gave the true definition? Here he comes.
I wasn't shaking the cheese.
Oh, it was you, was it?
You're on the track. You're on the track there because that is the noise, or someone says it's the noise that nightingales make. You will find it in the Oxford English Dictionary as such. 2-1, and we have garlets. And Richard, you will define it.
A garlet is a type of sort of little crossbow which is used by the Swiss infantry, the Swiss army in the 14th century, and it fired a little arrow or dart, which was lethal up to 30 paces. So it was said. That's what it was.
Right. So now we ask Claire Faulconbridge.
Garlets are little speckles which sometimes appear on the base of antlers of young stags before they're fully grown.
You don't care to say more than that? I don't know why you should, but I'd just like to hear you talk.
You don't know any more than that.
No, but that goes for so many of us, doesn't it? Frank, your turn.
Garlets, extremely dreary form of linen cloth imported from German Silesia about 200 years ago, used for making drearily boring humdrum objects like little bags for keeping boot brushes in and loose covers for hassocks. And it was a terribly boring colour of brown.
And still is.
So it's a sort of rather boring linen. It's little spots on the base of a stag's antlers, and it's a certain sort of crossbow. So, Christopher, your choice.
Right in your own, lad.
Because Frank Muir makes me laugh a lot, and he makes me laugh now. Yeah. Well, I haven't been here long. I'm being funny about something always makes me think he's going to be honest, and most of the time that I've seen the programme, he hasn't been. So, the crossbow Swiss and the young stag's freckles and the Silesian linen cloth, German, so I'll go for the young stag's freckles.
The young stag's freckles of which Claire Faulconbridge spoke. True or bluff?
That's a bluff, isn't it?
Ah, she couldn't tell a lie, could she? She did! She made all that up. Now, who gave the true definition? Garlets is a poor form or a boring form of linen. 2-all. Cumbly is our next one. Barbara, your turn.
Well, it's Cumbly actually, and it comes from Lancashire, and it describes a person who's very irritable, who's very abrasive. That's it.
Just that, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, Patrick?
If you've got your Cumbly with you, you're going to be warm and cosy and comfortable wherever you go.
Your wife?
A Cumbly, you fool, not your wife. A Cumbly, and what a lovely word it is, to be sure. It's a very hairy, woolly blanket. It comes off an Indian hill sheep. You can't just tear it off the sheep and put it on.
Let's get weaving.
When you get it off the Indian hill sheep, you weave it a little bit, and with your Cumbly around you, you can come to no harm. Perhaps the sheep's mother might come and take it back, but apart from that, you're cosy and comfortable forevermore in your Cumbly.
Rather a long blanket, isn't it?
So, shall we hear now from Christopher Timothy?
I take you to Suffolk for Cumbly, which is a fudge. I'll speak faster than that because they speak very slowly in Suffolk. It's a fudge, very high in cholesterol, and should in fact be made of treacle, not brown sugar. Sometimes it is, but it shouldn't be. And at Christmas time in Suffolk, they cut the uncooked Cumbly or the unset Cumbly into shapes like mannequins, and they hand them out as Christmas presents. And they're called Cumbly men for Christmas. Fudge.
So it's a sort of a blanket that sheep provide. It's stated being irritable in Lancashire, and it's sort of fudge from Suffolk. Oh, yes. Claire.
Well, I toyed with the irritable Lancashire people, and then I ended up with the hairy blankets. I think it's the hairy blankets.
You don't care for the fudge?
No.
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 That's what this programme's all about, really. So, anyway, you're going to have you'll have the blanket,
Yes.
right, Patrick?
Paddy the hairy
you
blanket.
said it was a blanket, true or bluff?
I've got a hairy blanket for you, darling. It's not fair.
What a clever girl it is. Yes, it was a blanket,
And left out
and
your
is, for aught I know, a blanket. 3-2 or 2-3. Petty Perney is the next one. Claire Faulconbridge.
A petit penny, and I'll try not to spit, is a product from the puff pastry cook. It's a kind of a pie, according to ancient recipe books, and it had in it ye old marrow, ye old gobbets, and ye pinch of ginger, amongst other ingredients.
Like what?
Right.
That'll do for now.
You can make one with those ingredients. You don't need more. Frank, your turn.
Morris dancing. Short, elbow-length cloak for Morris dancers, sometimes embroidered with wings. Petty Perney, Morris dancers, short cloak.
Right. Now, Richard, your turn.
There was a Dr. Pettipan who was a master at Brasenose College, Oxford, in the 16th century, and he had a reputation rather like the Vicar of Bray. He was a man who constantly changed his opinions, as many dons do, and this gave rise to the adjective pettipanny, which meant someone who is always changing his views from one minute to the next.
It could so easily be that, couldn't it? Unfortunately, but it isn't. It isn't my turn, no.
Let me remind you what it is. Changeable, yes. Changeable, it said, a sort of pie and a cloak of a Morris dancer. Barbara.
Oh, dear. Yes, it could so easily be
Exactly.
changing views, couldn't it?
Good
that
point there,
really
yes.
could.
That's what they're doing now. A bit of pettipanny going on.
Morris dancers. I don't look into your eyes, Frank, when you do that. And an old pie, Petty Perney. I don't like the old pie at all. Sounds awful. Morris dancers. Oh, dear.
2-1
I
chance.
think I'll go for the obvious.
Which is it?
I think I'll go for yours.
Who's yours?
Oh, Richard's. Okay, slowly.
That's an...
Oh, he's done it. Well, she went for yours. It turned out to be Richard's.
No, it was Frank's, actually.
Yeah, so you can play that trick once, but not twice, Barbara. So that it wasn't any good, really, because it doesn't mean changeable. Who gave the true definition?
Oh, not that little pudding.
That was the pie. A petty perney is a sort of pie. And so let's have another word. It's velling, and Patrick will define it.
The word velling, of course, derives from the old agricultural verb, which is none other than to vel. You take a field, and you want to vel it. You pass a skimming plough over the field. and it wells it.
Well, it would, wouldn't it? I mean,
Just a moment, I haven't quite concluded. I've got one further illuminating observation to make. It's like unspreading bread and butter. De-spreading. Taking the butter or the turf off the velling or the bread.
butter in a field.
No, get mixed up there.
Marge.
It's just velling anyway. I finished.
Yes, very good. I enjoyed it. Christopher, Timothy, your go.
The word should be pronounced Velink, because it's named after an inventor of Dutch origin called Jacob Velink. And he invented a thing called a Velink air pump. And this was a pump which blew air of a consistent temperature over freshly blown glass so that it cooled gradually. That's right. Yes. Velink.
All right. Now, Barbara Kellerman to tell us.
Well, it's a mould that grows on certain hops of a particular substance called fustinara, which is used for brewing brown ales. And in fact, if you then take these little funguses and put them through a microscope, you will find, believe it or not, that they are very, very similar in their minuscule form to Wellington boots in their Well, they are, because they look like very tiny little ones under a microscope, and it's a fungus.
So it's a sort of a mould. It's an air pump invented by a Dutchman, and it's skimming the top off a field. Nothing to do with butter really. That was just the parallel, but it's just skimming the top off. So, Frank, choose.
A huff a Velink, that an air pump passing air over glass would shatter the glass if it was hot. Well, I just got a feeling. I didn't understand a word of Miss Kellerman's, but I'm told by you construed that it was mould.
Mould, yeah, shaped like a Wellington boot.
Shaped like a Wellington boot.
Yes.
Well, how interesting.
A lot of it about.
And it's, you can't skim off the top of a field with a plough. I mean, a plough's essentially a digger and turner over, isn't it?
You could if you were hell bent on it, I suppose.
No, you have to be hell unbent. In fact, it's the bend in the plough which turns the thing over.
Yes, that's right.
So that can't work. So it must be the damned air pump. It can't be, can it? Yes, flash the card, Vet.
It's Christopher Timothy who gave the definition of an air pump. Mynheer Velink invented it, he says. But he didn't.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Well done, No, nothing to do with that. Who gave the true definition? You must see it. It's there somewhere.
It was me. Oh, to my surprise. Yes, it was. I'm so sorry.
It's getting all that butter out of the field. No, it's nothing to do with butter. It's skimming the top off, or
with a plough.
So he said,
with a skimming plough.
You know, more than my position's worth to go further than that. So anyway, the score is 4-3.
It's 4-all.
Who says 4-3?
Oh,
I think it's 4-3. Well, we never know. Let's get on and have Hooder. Frank, it's your turn.
A Hooder was the bane of Victorian pickpockets. Because in sort of cant, a Hooder was a chap who'd taken measures against being pickpocketed. If you sewed fishhooks inside your hip pocket, it'd be a Hooder. If you wired your watch chain to a burglar alarm, Hooder. If you kept your wallet in your sock, Hooder.
It's nonsense, isn't it?
We'll see.
Now, Richard Ingrams.
Hooder is, in fact, an Indian word, and it refers to a sort of cattle cake, which is used by farmers, or what they would call them in India, I don't know, during the rainy season. to feed to their cattle. And these chunks of cattle cake are made up of the husks of millet and maize and things that grow in India.
So now, Claire, what do you think? Oh no, what do you think? I mean, what do you mean? Yes. What would you say?
A hooder is a rustic covering for a shock of corn. And it is a sheaf of corn which is placed slantwise on top of the shock of corn, and it acts as a primitive covering against rain.
Yes, that's nice. It's a sort of cautious person who guards against pickpockets. It's part of a stook of corn. It's something to do with laying a bit over the top to keep the rain off. And it's Indian cattle cake. Patrick, your choice.
Well, unfortunately, Richard Ingram's feeding kettles
Sorry, a slip of the tongue.
with things that grow in India. He doesn't know anything about it at all. Feeding kettles with things that grow in India. You're a great help. Or is it? So obviously a hooder must be a thing that hoods something, but who's going to sew fish hooks in the hip pocket and walk away from it?
Exactly.
I think it's a thing for hooding straw, or do I? I do.
You were going to choose that?
Yes.
Well, it was young Claire Faulconbridge who said that.
It
was
wasn't
she
again.
telling the truth, or was she telling a fib? You're So isn't that nice? A hooder is just exactly what Claire said it was. It's something you put over the corn to keep it a bit dry, not all that dry.
We can win this
And
one,
I'm going
please.
to draw stumps at this point, because isn't it nice? There are no winners, there are no losers. For all, clap both of them.
Just a miserable draw. If you take them out aloud, you can easily beat them. Yeah, a winner.
Very nice, very agreeable. So we'll have some more pre-electric definitions from the OED next week. Until then, goodbye from Christopher Timothy, Richard Ingrams, Barbara Kellerman, Claire Faulconbridge, Patrick Campbell,
Good night.
Frank Muir,
Good night.
and goodbye.